Well, with that said, I want to turn to Hank Priebus and Phil Edholm. I don't think Hank was able to make it again tonight. He's trying to recoup, I think, from his convention uh, for the quick tip that Phil has. So, Phil, welcome.
So we're going to continue with this discussion of how to use PowerPoint, and I wanted to add in a little section just about how to find stuff, because I tend to find that people sometimes don't know how to go find things on the internet. I know a lot of the folks that are here do in fact know that. So one of the things is that very much open to discussion in that. So I'll start off by just sharing a screen here and kind of talking about what we want to do and where we want to look. So, if you think about using the internet, you can really use the internet in two different, oh, sorry about that. I popped that up there too, in two different ways. You can use it to do direct internet searches and directly find things that you can, potentially use as a print. So a good example of that is you're building a structure. It's not going to be a foreground structure. It's going to be 3 or 4 feet from the edge of your layout. But you want to be able to have it lighted and have an interior. So you decide that instead of putting a full interior together, you're going to use a printed interior and put it into the building. So that's a good example where that internet search is probably looking for something you can print directly. One of the things I want to talk about is how you focus on images. One of the things you find when you look on the internet and you search is you tend to be put into a text-based kind of presentation of websites, because in many ways the basic internet's all about finding information on the web, and that's about websites. We want to go in and look at the images themselves, because we're really focused on how do you find images you can use. You want to get very specific in searches, and I think there's a bit of an art to this. I'll talk a little bit about it, but again, I think anyone who's got any suggestions, key in about how you write this. It's the Boolean logic of trying to identify the things that you want, and sometimes being able to take something you've been searching for and make it more selective. Um, the other thing, when we look at images, we want to pay attention to resolution. That's a really important thing to understand. What's the resolution of the image you're looking at? Uh, there's another way of using this, which is to not try to look on the internet actually for something to print, but rather as a template to use to recreate. And we did that. We talked last couple of weeks about how to use sketching. That's really how you do the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a Google page up here. I use Chrome, find it very good. So, why don't I open up? Let's talk about, does someone have something they've been looking at modeling in this domain that you would want to print? Can anybody think about something that's of interest? So let's say we got a sign, right? We want to go figure out a sign. So the first thing you say is, I want to do a sign. It's going to be a pretty logical sign. It's going to be a railway, an express sign. So an REA sign. So I want to do it for a railway express sign. And let's say, this is where it gets kind of specific, is start saying, is there a time period I'm looking for? So you say, I want to look for something from 1930, go ahead and put that in your search. So what I've said is railway express sign 1930. Go ahead and do that, and you'll see a few here, but the key to this is to go up here where it says images. And so what they do is they search all of the images and they put them, and you can kind of ignore this first one here that says shopping, because that's really trying to get you to buy stuff. You want to go down here. And so this is where you start beginning to see the idea of, can I use one of these signs, with a model of some kind? So, as you look through here, and sometimes you find them in ones that are for sale. This one looks kind of interesting here. This is an authentic reproduction sign. Reproduction is okay for me. So I can click on that and I can go look at the object and jump over here and actually see the object in this point. And I'll show you how to get that, but we don't really want that one. Let's go back and look for some others. So is there one here that looks particularly good as a sign for us to use? Maybe we should try it with 1920. Let's see if we get better signs in 1920 than we got in 1930. So, here's one that's interesting. This is a Wikipedia sign. Now, this is one of the points that I made there is when you get this, if you click on something that's for sale up here, you go directly to the website, and I'll show you how to get things from those websites in a second, like the one we were just on. If you click on any of these other objects here, what you typically will get is not the sale thing, but you'll actually get it to open in a separate window over here. And what this is this is actually Wikipedia, or this is actually Google finding that object. And it has a link to the page that has the object on it. But this is what's important, is it's telling you the resolution of that image. And that's a little fine to go ahead and use for this Railway Express sign. So, one of the things you can do is you can roll down through here and see. But, I think what we found over here is that I thought the best looking Railway Express sign of all was one we saw down here in one of these for sale things. I think maybe like this one here. That one looked pretty good. So now we come over here, and one of the things you'll notice is that we can click on the image here and we can copy it. So that now what we've done is we've taken that image and we've copied it. So now we can bring it back into our PowerPoint. Nope, I got to get out of the slideshow here. We can bring it back into our PowerPoint. And I'm just going to use the one that I was doing for the slides here this time. So I'm just going to bring this over here. And then go down to this slide. To make the background here white, remember we go in here and we click and we change the background color. I'm just going to make the background white on this slide so we can see it. Make it a white background. And now what we can do, we'll make our layout a blank layout. We'll go ahead and just paste on this that object we brought over. So you'll notice that it actually came over at fairly high resolution. So if we're going to print it, it's probably going to shrink down about like that. So if you print that, that's going to print it fairly high quality and look pretty good. Now you can weather it afterwards, or you can, do anything else you want with it. So, this is kind of the way you do this is you just go look. So can anybody think about something else you'd want to go look for? I'm kind of trying to throw this open to everybody who's here to say, is there something that you would think would be an interesting thing to go see if we can find to print out? Let me think of something.
1940s general store signs.
So these would be external signs. So 1940s general store signs. So we'll go see if that, and that's great. We may take the 1940. We can try it with the 40s. We can try it without the 40s and make it just 1940. Sometimes you get different results. And you can see some signs here that are, a general store sign from Amazon, which you could reproduce. Now, one thing when you click on these, one thing that's kind of interesting is Google does a lot of interesting search stuff. When you click on a sign like this, it'll show you the sign, but it'll show you related content that they found that's similar to that. So, an interesting way to think about this when you use Google is every one of these images up here is not just an image. It's actually a door to a bunch of stuff that looks the same. So, if you look through this and you see something that looks close to what you want, you can actually, jump into that and pick it out. Now, if you look at signs, of course, the other thing is you have signs like this that you can see that other people have already put together. You can look at, not necessarily to use directly, but to see what their signs are they use. Shoes, boots, and waterproofing there. It's an interesting sign. Clearly someone's taking a picture of, probably to sell or something. But the whole perspective is here is you can very quickly get lots of different things to pick out as your images. So again, if we just do general for 1940, you notice by doing 1940 versus 1940s, you get different images. And what you may find is, if you go in and you do 35, you'll get some of the same images, but you may get something different. Like I don't think we saw these Coca-Cola signs at the same time. So there was a 1935 vintage Coca-Cola sign here, that might look really good on the side of a building. So anyway, so that was really all I wanted to talk about today. I think this is, if you're not using this as a source of material, it's a readily available source of material for you to, to have those signs and things in place. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, Phil, I'd let
Yes.
people know, when they do the right click to save image, you can get it as a JPEG or a GIF or a PNG, and those will work. But a lot of times you get a web file and there's no point downloading that because it just takes you back to the web.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing I have found is, by the way, and I didn't show this, and you have to find a file. There's some files when you go to copy them, they copy as an object that you can't see. And in PowerPoint, here, let me go share my second screen there. If I go back here and put PowerPoint back up there. So in PowerPoint, up here at the top, so when I put this in here, you'll notice that I pasted it and I just hit Control V, which is paste it just like that. If you go up here, there's paste, and you can paste it as specific types of shapes. So you can paste it either as a PNG object or a bitmap. So this one will paste as any one of these things. Sometimes if you paste it, you won't see the picture. You just see like a little outlined box. If you come back, just delete that and come back in here and paste it as a PNG, then it pastes more effectively. So sometimes those objects that are hard to paste, if you paste them as a different kind of file, PowerPoint will go through the interpretation and you'll actually be able to see them.
Hey, Phil, this is Bob. Just a couple things. One, to what Greg was saying, if you right click and you see it's a web page, you can, at least on the Mac, you can go down to a selection box and say all file types, and then just change the file suffix to JPG, and it will save it as a JPEG.
Good.
And then the only other thing, Phil, I wanted to point out is up at the top of the search page, under the tools, there are some really good tools to help refine what you're going to see. And if anybody's concerned about rights issues and stuff, you can select to see only images that are not rights managed or stuff like that. Plus, you can also say if you want to see large files only, medium files only, etc. I use this all the time. We steal stuff all the time.
So
Yeah,
what you're
the term
saying,
royalty free helps a lot.
right?
Yeah,
The use, so
there's
you're saying in the
usage
tools
rights
up here,
as well as, size and stuff like that. So, and then types, you can look that you may see that there's clip arts and GIFs and etc. So,
and
very
that's
helpful.
and you can also specify, sometimes depending upon what you're doing, if you're doing a decal or something and you want clear, if you put transparent here,
yeah,
you'll
Cool.
actually get a different set of things, some of which will be transparent backgrounds. And so if you've got an object, for example, if it's something where you want the background to see through and you're going to print you're going to print a decal, the white area on the decal will be transparent. So if you find an object and you want to get rid of the white, if you look for transparent objects, it'll work out, or something that's there.
fantastic.
But yeah, no, so I think that's great. The tools is a great comment that there's, you can specify the size and, that you want as well. So that's a great hint. So one of the nice things about doing this kind of a thing and having it as a discussion is you get lots of new info. It's something that I will add to the list. Well, with that, Jim, I think we'll throw it back to you.
Okay, anybody have any other questions or comments for Phil? Thanks so very much.
Wait, Rick. Go ahead, Rick. We didn't hear you.
Okay, I think as long as everybody or anybody's using it just for their own personal moral training and not trying to sell it, I don't think I have to worry about any ownership.
Yeah.
Would that be
Yeah,
correct?
the copyright stuff is fairly blurry for that kind of thing. You're right, but I think if you're putting something inside a building on your layout, I don't think you have to worry too much. But on the other hand, if somebody videos it, then it ends up on the internet. So
I wouldn't worry about it.
anyway,
Yeah,
back
the
to you,
hardest
Jim.
part about that is if you find all these really nice images and they all say Alme on them, if I'm just using it for my reference, I don't mind going in and removing it so I can see what I want to see.
Okay, Phil, thank you so very much. Look forward to what your comments are next time.